You're listening to episode 807 of the Father Bills podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is entitled Jealousy, Greed, and Joy, given on the 26th Sunday in Ordinary Time, 2021. This past week, I had the situation where I had to go to a store for some customer service. Have you ever gone into customer service where the service was lacking? Well, this wasn't it. It was amazing. In both occasions, the persons helped me bent over backwards, were very kind and gracious. In fact, one was helping me as I entered the store. They were checking people in and said, I can take care of you here right now if you allow me also to simultaneously let everybody else in as they're checking them in for help. I'm like, sure. And what an amazing job he did. He was present to everyone he came in, and everybody was glad that he was there. And I got my problem solved. So it was a win-win-win for all those who encountered this guy named Jeremy. Today we hear about, let's just say, not so great customer service on the part of people you would expect it from. We hear about examples of jealousy and intolerance and greed, amongst others. The first reading from the book of Numbers, we heard about how Joshua was jealous of Edad and Medad for Moses' sake. Interesting, huh? Possibly Joshua felt that Moses would lose something, possibly authority or power or prestige. But clearly Moses was not daunted. This did not bother him at all. So really the problem was with Joshua. And Moses corrected him. A similar story unfolded for a man who was gifted with the power to drive out demons, like the apostles were doing. And John, the beloved disciple, wanted to stop him. And Jesus reprimanded him for this attitude. The text from the book of James, the apostle, challenged his hearers about those who might be gripped by greed, selfishness, uncaring for others, and worse. Each of these are variations on the fallen nature of humanity and potentially a scandalous sense of what God whom he calls to ministry. That we'd expect these individuals to be better than this. But they are human, like all of us, and we're all in need of God's grace. In our times in which we live, there are many things, that we can complain about or even be jealous about or envious. All of these, my friends, darken the mind and soul. We need to let go. We need to abandon ourselves. See, they create cages of anxiety and anger and sadness and feelings of inadequacy. We know this. We've all done this. I've done this. All of them are an offense to God and others. And they, in our case, may even destroy our relationship with God because we have blocked him out with our sin. And there's plenty of round to go. Plenty of this going around today. So we struggle with all these various things in different degrees. And yet this is amazing. While we heard about all those three texts, all kind of going together, the church has decided to place Psalm 19 in our midst, in the middle of it all, where David, the psalmist, gives praise to the Lord for the law, God's precepts. And we all responded. The precepts of the Lord give joy to the heart. I can't possibly sing it as good as you did, Nina. And by the way, good to get in that note. That's hard when you have a guitar, to get the note. That was awesome. The precepts of the Lord give joy to the heart. Both Moses and Jesus expressed delight and acceptance for those who were given the gifts of the Spirit out of the normal order in an unexpected way, but it did tick other people off. Those in the stories just mentioned were given gifts, and they were outsiders in a way, or didn't make it to the meeting. They weren't part of the tribe, possibly. But see, they were not violating any of God's precepts, but rather responding to the Holy Spirit and his abundant love. Remember what Jesus said. Do not prevent him. There is no one who performs a mighty deed in my name who can at the same time speak ill of me. For whoever is not against us is for us. This tells us that God will work through anyone, and sometimes even the jerks and the enemies in our lives, if we're open to it. God is speaking to us all the time, through all kinds of situations, even the most difficult situations, those crosses that we'd rather just let go of, but yet we need to take them up and carry them so that we can learn the way. So, how would you grade yourself? Where would you land in this scenario? What's dominating your thoughts and attitudes and behaviors? Is there jealousy in your life? Are we unjustly intolerant of someone or something? Has greed or lust captured our hearts, which keeps us shackled? We have a choice. Indeed, we have control over many things, yet sometimes we fall victims. We have control over, or I'll say it for myself, what I say, what I do, what I think, what I believe, and what I feel. The toughest of all of those, I think, would be what I feel. Because don't we just have a situation and we just have a feeling and we might react to that. And that sometimes may be okay. Other times it can get us into really bad situations. But we have control over this. It takes training. You see, not too long ago, 25 years ago, I did not want to go to the hospital. And here I am studying to be a seminarian. And so came that summer when we did what's called clinical pastoral education, where I was sent to a hospital, St. Anne in Fall River, Massachusetts. I actually chose the location. You get to choose that part. That's where my mom was raised. And I was there to then go to rooms, to visit, to pray with people, to go to the ICU and the ER. And boy, did I see things. See, prior I was afraid of the smells, the nakedness, the pain, the fear, the emergencies, the blood. I mean, a list of things. In my particular case, because I knew I had this issue and I needed to get through it, I found myself in the ER most of the time. That, my friends, is hey, let's just kind of wander into the ER. Everybody in there is in an emergency situation. And the doctors and nurses should get double stickers, stars on their uniforms for doing what they do. But it was my way of kind of shocking myself into getting a better perspective. See, it did me no good if I walked in there and went, oh my gosh, you lost an arm. That's horrible. And then throwing up in front of them, right? That would be probably inappropriate. So I had to train myself what not to do and how to feel. And through time and experience, I got better at it. Today, I go to the hospital. I may have anxiety because I don't know what's coming, because I might know the person, which is helpful, but sometimes I don't. But sometimes I'm going to the ICU and it's a COVID patient, and so I'm a little anxious. But I can tell you, every single time I've gone to the hospital, every time, I always leave blessed. God has done something. I was privileged to walk into a space where there was difficulty. I don't know if I said anything worthwhile, but certainly my presence was helpful. I thought to myself, when it's my turn and I'm in the hospital, who would I want to come visit me? And if my pastor or a priest came to see me, I would be very grateful. Now, one of my fears would be some people, I'm afraid, think they're going to die because I'm walking into their room. Well, that's a rare occasion these days. It used to be more common, but I think people now have a better idea that the priest is coming to help. In fact, I'm not going to stick you with a needle. I'm not going to take your blood pressure. I'm not going to change your diapers or anything. Thank goodness for all parties involved in that, right? So when we have a need, it's a great privilege to be able to go to the hospital. And I don't react like I used to because I've been able to walk through, not around, those fears. So we've been given precepts. You can say regulations. The question that we must struggle with, or we often struggle with, is we might have what I would like to call a rebellious spirit. You can't tell me what to do. This would typically be with younger individuals, but it can be with adults. Our culture, especially in Southern Oregon, can be like that, especially the pioneering spirit. I'm going to pull my bootstraps up myself. I don't need you to help me as I fall over and onto the ground. And I certainly do need help. But pride gets in the way. So the question I'd ask, do rules and regulations, just as rules and regulations, set you off? Because that's an issue then. See, the Ten Commandments were not received like we might often receive them as rules and regulations and boundaries, and they were received with joy. In time, the Jews were exiled to Babylon, and it was actually the purpose so that they would dilute their faith, not become familiar or lose their faith, intermarry with other cultures. And as they came back, though, the priest Ezra, which is a good name, I like that name. Ezra reminded the people of the commandments. What did they do? They rejoiced. And he didn't just give them like 5 minutes of his time. He went on and on and on and on, and they rejoiced. Why? Because they found what right ordered living should be like. They forgot, and Ezra reminded them. They were reminded how to live freely, totally, faithfully, and fruitfully. For when we don't do these things, we become a train wreck. We fall into sin, and only with God's grace can we come out of it. So this week, maybe take an account of the complaints, not of others that you hear, which are probably frequent, but our own. Where are we complaining? And maybe consider bringing that. It might be a good call to bring that to the sacrament of reconciliation. Every Saturday afternoon we have them, or by appointment. Then take an account of how much gratitude and praise you have witnessed around you and in yourself, especially after you've gone to reconciliation. It's my experience, people kind of walk in, they're nervous, and they float out, freed. What an amazing miracle it is to be present to. So what do you think the world needs most of, or more of? Complaining or gratitude? Rights or a sense of responsibility? Which will embody the gospel of Jesus that he wants us to carry out and others need us to carry out, need it to be demonstrated to them? Because for many people, the faith is something, well, not just untangible, it's invisible. And it's only going to be seen through us, through you and me, when we bring our faith into action so it can be seen. Because if it's not us, then who? Instead of darkening ourselves with rivalry and jealousy or greed, may we, as St. Paul wrote to the Romans in Romans 12:15, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Let us live in harmony with one another. May we not be proud, but enjoy the company of the lowly. May we be cautious about our own estimation, living in peace and not seeking revenge. You see, my friends, then the world will take notice of us, not for our sake, but for the gospel's sake. They will come to see God incarnate in you and me. And they will wonder where such grace has come from. And when that moment happens, then we can share with them the God of wonders who desires to reconcile us to himself and bring healing to any situation in which we find ourselves.